Hi, I'm Angie Veman, and welcome to Totally Clutch. This is the podcast for women like you to find ways to simplify your business and personal life. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. All right, welcome back to another episode of Totally Clutch. I'm your host, Angie Veman, and today we're going to be talking about how and why and how to write a best-selling book. So this is a tool that a lot of business owners are using now, and I think it's super helpful to fully understand that, because it's not an easy endeavor, right? And for me, it seemed like more and more people in my life were writing books, or were putting that on their list of things that they wanted to accomplish in their life. And maybe that's you. Maybe you know a lot of people that are doing it, or maybe it's been on your list. Either way, Emee Estacio is here with us today. Now, she is a 3-time #1 best-selling author. She's a psychologist, and she's also a self-publishing launch strategist. And she's gonna tell us all we need to know about how and why and how to write a best-selling book. So welcome to the show, Emee.
Thank you very much for having me, Angie. It's such a pleasure to be here. But just to say in advance, I do apologize for the croaky voice. It's the start of the school year. My son brought back a bug from school, and I'm
Yeah,
sure parents could relate to this every year.
totally.
It never fails, catch something from school. But yeah, I'm so happy to be here and to be able to share what I know about Amazon self-publishing.
Awesome. Yeah, and so you focus predominantly on Amazon.
That's correct. Because
Okay.
I find that Amazon self-publishing is perhaps the simplest way to do it. It is so straightforward, takes away the admin and all of the complexities that's involved in self-publishing. With Amazon, you essentially just upload your stuff and they take care of the rest. So,
Mhm.
yeah, that's why I focus mainly on Amazon.
Yeah, awesome. Great. Okay, so let's step back a little bit, and I'd love to hear just about your background and how you came to do the work that you're doing, and tell us more about the work that you do.
Sure. Well, as you said in the intro, my background is actually in psychology, and I was a university lecturer for about 10 years. That means being a psychology lecturer and working at the university setting, I'm used to writing textbooks, I'm used to yeah, just sharing my knowledge and having students around me. And so before I was into self-publishing, I was already traditionally published. I had a publisher who would take care of the printing and the marketing and the distribution. So for me as an author, all I had to do was to write my stuff, hand it over to the publisher, and they deal with the rest. The drawback that I found, however, from traditional publishing is that I lack the freedom and control in terms of the time frame, in terms of the royalties, because obviously the publisher will also have to get their cut. But mainly, I find that if I had to go through the traditional publishing route, it usually takes us about 2 years from finishing the first draft to actually getting it there, out on the shelf. So for me, as an online business owner and as a coach, I want to write something and share it with my audience immediately, get feedback from my audience and keep writing. And the way to have that more personal connection and more personal touch, and releasing my books in a more timely manner in my own terms, is through self-publishing. Now, initially, I was absolutely overwhelmed because, in my previous life, if you like, as an academic, I was spoiled. As I've mentioned, my publisher will deal with everything. But with self-publishing, I had to understand how publishing works. I have to know where to find my editor, my cover designer, how am I going to print it, distribute it, market it, and so on. So that was my initial concern about self-publishing, and I was absolutely terrified that, okay, I'm already established as a health psychologist who writes textbooks. My textbooks are also bestsellers in our niche. What if my self-published books flop? I will lose my credibility. I will lose my reputation. So what I did was, instead of burying my head in the sand and just letting my fear embrace me, I actually educated myself and tried to understand how to do it. So I reached out to the best people in the self-publishing arena. I learned from the best. And from there, I just gained more experience. I published my first book, got it to number one bestseller. I actually even outranked the amazing Tim Ferris with my first book as a newbie, first time self-published author with zero social media followers, because frankly, I didn't even have a Facebook account, before I published my first book. So it's just a real learning process for me. And from there, I published my first book. The second book was the same, got it to number one bestseller. Third book, again, got it to number one bestseller. And people started noticing and reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Emmy, we've noticed that you've been publishing your books. How did you do that? I mean, and not just publishing it, but how did you get to number one?" And I said, "Look, I follow a very specific sequence. You don't just hit the publish button, cross your fingers, and hope for the best, because that's what would separate the amateurs from those who are treating their books as a business. If you're going to use your book as part of your business strategy, you will know that you'll need to do your market research, you'll need to do your keyword research, you need to have a team around you, you need to have a budget, and you need to have a launch strategy, so that when you do publish it, you're following that strategy and then you aim for the top." So that's how I got to where I am now.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm dying to know the name of the first book that beat out Tim Ferriss.
Yes, the book is called Change Your Life for Good. And I think one of the reasons why I outranked Tim Ferriss was because I launched it on the 1st of January. So a lot of people are probably bored at home. It's like the holiday period. And then New Year, they have their New Year's resolution. They're hoping for change. And there, my book is a new release, and people downloaded it, and that was it. Outranked Tim Ferriss on my first book with my first launch.
Amazing. Well, congrats on that. That's so cool. Awesome. Okay, so tell us, I guess I'm curious, if business owners should be writing books, and why is that a valuable, so you've talked about, having that as a part of your business strategy. So what, should people be having that as a part of their business strategy, and what does that look like?
Yes, absolutely. Well, first of all, if you're going to use it as part of your business model, it's a really great way to show people who you are and what you do. If you are an expert in your field, writing a book is a great way to show that you are a leader in your field, that you know what you're talking about. That's the number one thing. And you will be able to serve more people by writing your book. I actually have one student, Louise Armstrong. One of her motivations for writing her book is she just wants to serve her audience. And she said, "Look, I already have my one to one coaching, I have my courses, my membership, and so on and so forth. But they are high ticket products." And she recognizes that not everyone can afford her high ticket products. And she really has this intention to serve. And the way to reach more people is by giving them a low ticket offer. And that's how her books came to be. So one of the reasons is, yeah, if you have this intention to serve, if you want to share a message with the world, writing a book is a really great way to reach the masses. So that's the first one. The second one is, I think that's related to that, brand awareness, especially if you are putting your book out there on Amazon. Amazon has millions of users on that platform, and having your book out there elevates your brand, and it puts your brand in front of those millions of users if you know how to trigger the Amazon algorithm. So you need to understand how Amazon works, but it's a really great way to put your brand out there and elevate your brand as a published author. third reason why you should write your book, especially if you are an online entrepreneur and you're growing your mailing list, writing a book is a really great way to grow your mailing list. So let's say, for example, during your promo week, during your launch week, you set your book at 99 cents. So there's this huge opportunity for people to download your book. Some of my students even set their books for free, just with the intention of just letting people know that they exist. And thousands of downloads, yeah, like what I've mentioned with Louise Armstrong, my student who published her book. She published her book, set it for free for 5 days, and in one day she had over 2,500 downloads. So that's an extra 2,500 eyeballs on your brand. And inside her book, she has a lead magnet. She has a free hypnosis guide inside her book. And the way people can download that hypnosis guide is by signing up to her mailing list. So that's a really great way to grow your brand, to grow your mailing list, and then you can nurture your warm leads through your mailing list. Some of my students, let's say for example, Joyce Carrera, again, she published her book, got her to number one bestseller. Actually, it's been a year since she published her book, and she's still number one. But the way she's actually using her book to grow her business is by directing people to her Facebook group. So she's growing her community on Facebook, with people discovering her on Amazon through her book. Her book is about content writing and SEO marketing, that kind of stuff. So people discover her, they find her amazing content in her book, and then they want to know more about her. They follow her on social media because it's all in the book, join her Facebook community. And I do have other students who have podcasts, blogs. That's all inside the book, but it's a really great way to grow your audience and you nurture them in your other platforms. And finally, I do have other students as well who use their books as a way to nurture their audience, as a way to upsell as well. So, for example, they have a membership. One of the bonuses, one of the perks that they will offer is their book. So, there are many advantages of writing a book, and you use your book as an asset for your business.
That's amazing. Okay, so well, I'll get there, but I mean, what I'm getting from this, and tell me if I'm right, is that this is like a free way so especially with the costs of Facebook ads increasing so significantly, and running any kind of social media ads, it's just not as effective as it has been in the past. And so this seems like, and I don't want to discount the amount of work that it takes, but this seems like a free way to build that list that you otherwise, your other options are paying for those leads. And this is, you're putting in a lot of work to get there, but if you're doing it, following the strategy that you've got, it's a great way to maybe eliminate even the need for that paid advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is what I keep telling my students. If you are using this as a way to grow your business, don't worry too much about the royalties, but you look at it from the long-term perspective of getting people to find you and driving them into your business. And if anything, if you just have that intention to share a message, if you're passionate about something, again, I do have one other student, Wendy Andrew. She's so passionate about pet loss, and helping people to cope with the loss of their pet. She's so passionate about disenfranchised grief that she wrote her book with the intention to remove the stigma around this topic, and just to open up conversation and dialogue. And she puts herself up front to be someone who is an advocate for people who are grieving for the loss of their pet. So it opens up dialogue. It's really good for her PR as well. And then eventually, yeah, it drives new clients to her pet bereavement counseling service.
That's amazing. I don't know if anybody could hear, but my dog was just barking as you were talking about that. So
Doggies.
funny. Yeah. Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's incredible. So now, I mean, I'm sold. Writing a book has never been on my list. But I'm convinced now. And so now I'm curious, I guess what does it take? I mean, writing a book sounds really overwhelming. Sitting down and making that happen sounds like a lot of work. So do you have any tips, any strategies for getting people to put pen to
Get it
paper and
done.
actually finish it?
Yes, I have to say, Angie, that's one of the things that blocks online entrepreneurs. They say, I just haven't got the time. And I would say, you do have time to create social media content, right? And you have time to create your podcast, and you have time to create your courses. If you have time for that and you actually have already existing content, then you can repurpose your existing content and map it out into your book. You don't actually have to reinvent the wheel and start from scratch, especially if you are an expert in your field. It's just like writing a blog. And frankly, writing a book in a more conversational style will have more impact than a book that sounds so stuffy and just really full of jargon. If you write blogs, if you are a speaker, for example, who can just throw a 1 hour presentation on a topic and just keep talking, you can get that piece of presentation transcribed, and there you already have the chunk of your book, and you can add elements to it. So first thing that you'll have to consider, especially if you already have existing content, whether it's a podcast, a blog, or if you already have a manuscript, like ideas hanging hanging somewhere. If you already have an existing course, you can actually repurpose your existing content and turn elements of those into your book. So that's the first thing that you can consider. The second thing is that you might be thinking that you need to write a 60,000 word book. Now, what I would encourage you to do, especially if you're an online entrepreneur building a brand on Amazon, you can consider writing a book series, 15 to 20,000 words per book, and you can write 5 books in the entire series, focusing on one specific problem at a time. So, for example, when I started writing my books, it's called the Psychology in Your Life series. Book one is Change Your Life for Good, forming new habits. The second book is about imposter syndrome. The third book is about fear. So you can actually compartmentalize and focus on one problem area at a time. That would be less overwhelming for you as an author, because you're not writing a gazillion words. It's just offering a solution to a very specific problem in 20,000 words or less. And as you gain more experience in writing and self-publishing, you will build your portfolio, and it will actually be better visibility for you on Amazon, because you're building your brand on that platform. So it's good for you, but it's also good for your readers, because they don't have to spend a year to finish reading your book. They could actually be on a plane, on a flight for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they finished reading your book. Because it's short, they will actually have the satisfaction of finishing reading a book and be able to implement what you had to share in your book. So it's very practical. It's good for you, it's good for your audience, it's win-win, and it's less overwhelming for everyone. So the first thing, you can repurpose your content. The second thing is, you can consider creating a series of books, 15 to 20,000 words per book, and maybe create a five series, a book with five books in a series over a 1 year period, maybe longer if you're super busy. But yeah, for busy online entrepreneurs, that's what I would suggest them to get started. And once you have your first book, you'll have the confidence. You will figure out that, oh, it wasn't really as daunting as I put it in my head. Once you get the experience, and once you know what to do, the next couple of books will be so much easier and so much more enjoyable.
Okay, thank you for that. That feels so much better. And I can't remember the name of it. I was trying to think of it as you were going, but I actually ran across a software or a platform that is free to use that basically takes, you can put the links into your blog and also your social media, and it takes, all basically compiles all of your posts
Mm.
into a book,
Oh,
so that
wonderful.
yeah, it's amazing. And I mean, at least a good place to start, right? Like, obviously, you wouldn't be able, I don't think that it works as well as, you'd just be able to upload those and then hit print
Oh,
and
no,
you're
no,
good to
I
go.
wouldn't recommend that. What I actually ask my students to do before they write a book or even map out their content is to ground themselves in their purpose. I mean, it might sound a little bit soft, like you think, oh, she's so scientific and she has logic and so. No, you have to start with your purpose. You have to start with your why. Ground yourself in your purpose and understand why you are doing this. And it's not just on the personal level that I want to grow my business or I want to make more money and build my brand. That's good, that's for you, but you have to think of it on a wider scheme. Who are you serving? What impact will you have? And the ripple effect that your book will have. So it's not just about you anymore. The book becomes bigger than you. The purpose is bigger than you just growing your business. Obviously, yeah, if that's your only purpose, to grow your business and to have an extra passive income stream, that's good. But from my experience, what I find is that my students who have a really deep sense of purpose, advocacy, that they have this deep sense and willingness to serve, those are my most successful students because the project is actually bigger than them, and that that really helps them to keep moving forward. So you start with your purpose, and then you map out your what you already have and see how that fits in the market. Or you can do it the other way around. You do your market research and keyword research and see how you can serve if there is a gap there, and then you map out your content. But there's a process. There's a system to this that I teach inside my courses.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great reminder for anything. I mean, obviously for writing a book, but I think for anything in our business that, I mean, people fall into this trap with social media posts too, that they're just whipping posts together just to put something out there. And I think this is just another reminder that all of these things that we do, although they might come to mind as a way to, like you were saying, grow your business, make more money, all of those types of things, but they're all an extension of our brand, of the work that we're doing. And so it is so important that we are intentional about that, and that we're not just, I mean, I think I've always been a little skeptical of people that just want to write a book, right? Like they've just said, someday I want to write a book. Well, what do you want to write it about? I don't know, but I
Yeah,
want
sure.
I want to write a book. Yeah. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like people, like that doesn't mean that that's how they feel from start to finish all the time, but if your sole goal is just to write a book to say that you're an author, that's very different than putting something out into the world that really represents the insight and the contribution that you can make to the world.
Yes, and I have to say, Angie, one of the things that I do with my students in week one, like right from the start, we actually do our market and keyword research even before they start mapping out their books, even before they start writing. There are some students who come in later because they've already written their books, and they discover me at an earlier stage in their self-publishing journey. That's absolutely fine, but from the first week that they get to work with me, we do keyword and market research to identify what your readers are looking for. How can you serve them? Because if you understand what they are looking for, first of all, it is good for the Amazon algorithm. I treat Amazon as like a search engine. So people go to Amazon with the search bar, and they type in what they're looking for. So they would type in, for example, I'm looking for a book on imposter syndrome, and you find from our keyword research that 4,000 people are searching for a book like that. It gives you the confidence to actually start writing about that topic because people are looking for it. So it's good for the algorithm, it's good for your content mapping, and later on when you sell it, you know that there will be people waiting to buy it because they're looking for it. So that's actually the very first thing that I do with my students. We do keyword research and market research, identify what people are putting in on the Amazon search bar, and we use that as our guide to our topics. That's our guide to maybe pivot a little bit. So in my case, I wanted to write a book about self doubt initially. And yeah, there were some people looking for a book on self doubt, but the competition is massive. It's like 10,000 books on that topic. But imposter syndrome, on the other hand, 4,000 searches per month, but not too many books at that time, when I wrote my book. So again, it guides you with your marketing strategy, but you need to be informed by what the market is telling you so you can actually write a book that will serve them well, and when it is time for you to sell it, it's easier to sell because they are looking for it in the first place.
Mhm.
And Amazon will show it because it's relevant. You've put in the right
Right.
keywords, you've put in what I call it, you optimize your
Right.
page. You optimize your page. So it is the Amazon algorithm that will trigger the promotion. Amazon will keep showing your book because the keywords are relevant to the keywords that people are putting in. Does that make sense?
Totally. I mean, I actually use it similarly. So I do a lot of work with e-commerce. So e-commerce retailers and a lot of my clients are that way. I also offer a course, and that's one of the things that I tell almost everybody that I work with that's involved in e-commerce is that their SEO is the biggest thing for an online business, for an online store. And why not go to the giant? Why not go to the best and see what people? So anyways, their product categories on their websites are their biggest SEO tool, because that's what people, if people are searching for those things, they're going to come to their site, they're going to find their site, they're going to come, they're going to see that this solves a problem that I'm attempting to solve. And anyways, that's a long way to get to. I have them go to Amazon, type
Mm.
in what they think people are searching for their product, the products that they
Yeah, yeah,
offer.
yeah, yeah.
And what drops down is sometimes different. Sometimes it's exactly the same. That's awesome. But sometimes it's very different. And so then it's not necessarily tweaking the product. It's just tweaking the way that you talk about it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And I have to say, when we optimize our pages, if you like, just before my students publish their books, we put in those keywords in their title, their subtitle, their book description, because it actually speaks directly
Mhm.
to the readers who are typing in those words. So if someone was looking for a book on how to overcome fear and self-doubt, and suddenly it comes up with a book with that subtitle, it's like, ooh, it's talking to me. So yeah, we do spend a whole week together, in my Get It Done hub, in my program. I spend a week with my students, just really honing in on their keyword research and market research, making sure that they understand, first of all, why it is important. It is important because it helps you to understand what your market is looking for. But from a marketing perspective, you optimize your page, so when people type in those keywords, it's on your page. Amazon will give preference to show your book to people who are looking for that, because it's on your page. This is what they are looking for, and this is what you have to offer.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, I think that's so helpful, because I think a lot of businesses create products, whether they're books or services or whatever it is. They create these things, they truly believe in what they're offering, and then sometimes the reception doesn't match what they expect. And
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times as business owners, it's hard not to think that it's, well, what's wrong with the product? Why doesn't anybody want this? And oftentimes it's just because they don't know. They don't, the people that are finding it, that are coming across it, well, either people aren't coming across it
Yeah.
because,
They
you're
couldn't
not,
find it.
they couldn't find it because you're not speaking the language that they are. And so it's just a miss. It's not that the product isn't valuable. It's not that you have to change anything in that. Oftentimes it's just you've got to find a way for people to recognize that this is actually what they need in order to solve the problem
Yes,
that they're
absolutely.
working on.
And I have to say there are a lot of books that fall in that category, that they are masterpieces, that they've put their heart and soul creating that book, and nobody buys it.
Mhm.
And it's not because it's a bad book, but it's just because it doesn't really resonate with the audience, and it doesn't really, they couldn't find it in the marketplace. I did have one client. I absolutely love Celia Kibler. She's a parenting, family empowerment coach. And she wrote a book initially called Taming the Toddler, right? So, yeah, she's a parenting expert, family expert, and she wants parents to stop yelling at their kids. That's her ultimate goal. Get parents to stop yelling at their kids. And I said, look, Sylvia, we'll have to do your keyword research and market research, because I'm not sure I'm resonating with taming the toddler. I love my kid, and yeah, he could be like an animal sometimes, but I don't think
Right.
taming is the word that I would use to to qualify a behavior that I would do with my son. So we did our keyword research, and we shifted her title into Raising Happy Toddlers. So
Mm.
it's going from Taming the Toddler, which is more negatively framed, to Raising Happy Toddlers, which is more positive and optimistic. And it's a desire that parents actually want. They want their children to be happy. And they
Yes.
actually, we did put that in, and you know how to develop, what was the subtitle again, something like how to build your parenting skills and stop yelling at your kids, something like that. So it's about you as a parent building your skills, and so you can stop yelling at your kids. But
Right.
just that tweak of taming the toddler to raising happy toddlers through the market research, she got to number one bestseller with that minor tweak, and she's using that as an upgrade for her membership as well. So you really
Awesome.
have to do your market research, do your keyword research, because if even if you have like the best book in the world, you know, you've put your heart and soul, all your expertise in the book, if people couldn't find it, and if they don't resonate with the cover, the title, you know, I know people say don't judge a book by its cover, but we actually do, because it's the first impression that we have with a book, especially on Amazon. You know, you can't really take it and sniff it. And, you know, that's what I do in bookstores. Actually,
Right.
I'm a bit of a nerd. I go to a bookstore, I touch the book, I smell it, I feel the book, but you can't do that on the Amazon store. You scroll, you scroll, you scroll, and you need to have a cover that pops. You need to have keywords that speak to your audience. And the other thing that I didn't mention is reviews. You need to have social proof. And with my students, I tell them, before you launch your book, 6 weeks before you publish, you need to organize your launch team. That's the difference between the amateurs and my students, because the amateurs will publish their book, they'll cross their fingers, they'll run around to their friends, their family, buy my book, like, everybody, please support me. And I'm thinking, you should have done that 6 weeks ago, before you publish. With my students, 6 weeks before they publish, they organize their team, and before they launch, their team is ready. They've read the book, they leave the reviews. So by the time they launch, they already have several dozen reviews on their
Mhm.
page, which is so much better for the algorithm, so much better for the social proof. And yeah, it just looks good. You know,
Totally.
it drives traffic, and it sort of tells the Amazon bots that your book is important because you launched it, people were downloading it, they were reading it, leaving a review. So it gives an incentive to the Amazon bots to keep promoting your book because they can see that there's activity during launch week. And the only way for that to happen is if you've done your prep 6 weeks in advance, not on the day that you hit the publish button.
Right. Yeah, that's huge. I mean, that's the case again for, for so many things. Like that's the thing for podcasts. I mean, people, but you just don't want to launch to an empty or people need to know, even if it's brand new, they still need to know that this is worth their time and their
Yeah.
money. And I also think, I just want to make this point or draw attention to this point even more that, not judging, you were talking about not judging a book by its cover and all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, the bottom line is people are creating this content that, they're sharing their insights because they want to share it with people. And so I think the important thing is to recognize that, like, why we don't want people to have to work so hard to find what we're creating. And the things that you're offering and suggesting, you're not asking somebody to turn an apple into an orange. It's just, it's making sure that people understand fully what that apple is, and and that it is an apple, and that it's going to satiate them. It's nutritious, it's right, like and it's delicious, right? Like, you want to make sure that they know all of those things instead of just saying, here's this apple, I think you'd really enjoy it, like
Yeah,
that's.
absolutely. And I have to say, Angie, when it comes to Amazon self-publishing, there's a difference between having covers on the paperback on the shelf, and there are the covers on Amazon. The covers on Amazon really needs to pop as a thumbnail on a small screen, because that's how people are finding books online. So yeah, when it comes to presenting your content, it needs to be very clear in a split second. It needs to catch their attention first of all, and not really having to ask what is this about,
Mhm.
um, because they're just gonna keep scrolling. So it really needs to be clear. It needs to, again, in my program, I do spend a week with my students just really refining their titles and subtitles, but also their covers, because even if it is the most beautiful, artistic, it's a work of art. If I don't understand what the book is about, then I'm gonna say, look, you have to rethink this again. And actually, the keywords that we spent a whole week on identifying, it needs to pop.
Yeah.
So if your keyword is build your business through SEO marketing, that needs to pop. I don't really have to second guess what that is about, but just by scrolling, I can see it immediately.
Mhm.
So yeah, for to be successful on Amazon, you need to take those into consideration. You need to do your keyword research, market research, spend a bit of time optimizing your what I call metadata, your title, your
Mhm.
subtitle, your book description with the high traffic keywords. Build your launch team with your so you'll have social proof when you launch your book, but also, yeah, optimizing your cover so it actually pops on Amazon.
Awesome. That's great. That's super helpful and makes perfect sense now that we know, now that you've shared it with us. So, how can people work with you if they're interested in learning more?
Oh, of course. The best way to find me is to go to my free self-publishing made simple community on Facebook. But as you can see here, the one on your screen right now, it's thepamico.com/join C2C. This is a mini workshop that will show you how you can repurpose your existing content into a best-selling book. So if you have a podcast or an existing course or a blog, and you want to map out your ideas and turn it into a best-selling book, It's a 2-hour mini workshop, very easy to digest and very implementable. And you'll have worksheets there that will guide you through the market research, the keyword research, and the entire launch sequence that will make sure that it will get you to number one bestseller when you launch. So yeah, the details are there. Thepamico.com/join C2C. It's content to clients that will help you to turn your existing content into a best-selling book and drive new leads into your business.
Awesome. And then also, did we get the name of your Facebook group?
Oh yes, my Facebook community is called Self-Publishing Made Simple. So I'm active there, and if you have any questions about writing and self-publishing, or even just watching the others publish their books and get to number one, it's really so much fun. Because my students actually brag there when they publish and they get to number one. It's their bragging space. So it's just so fun to watch, and it's inspiring to see that it's also possible for us non-celebrities, if you like, to also get to number one bestseller if you know how the system works, and if you prepare in advance and follow a proven launch sequence to get you to number one on Amazon.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emee, for being here. And I should say Dr. Emee. I left that out at the beginning. I apologize.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of this. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It's powerful, and I'm really grateful that you were willing to share it with us. And yeah, I'm excited to see what everybody does with it.
I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope your audience found it useful.
Awesome. Thank you. And enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you're notified when a new episode is posted. Rate and review this podcast and share it with all of your friends. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you're leaving with some great things that can help you move from hustle to flow, because I believe in you and your business. Until next time.